Shot in the air. It's good.
Flash. What?
Finds the Wallace. Barkley puts it up. Does it count? It does. Shanko got it. Shanko center. It's good. Oh my goodness.
Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Solar Panel, whether you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or listening to us on the podcast, wherever you get them. We appreciate you, the Flaming Ballers, more than you will know. I am your host, Greg Esposito. Ahoy, hoy. Joining me, as always, no, Dave King's not next to me. It's the Carmel Thunder from Down Under, who's moved next to me today. It is Saul Bookman. Saul, how are you, my friend?
Otherwise known as the other gray bush.
We can fix that. Manscaped can help you with the gray bush. How are you, Saul?
Oh man, I was talking about this the other night. I felt like almost more relief than I did ecstasy in that game 7 or game 6 win. Mostly because you knew you should have won these last 2 games, especially without AD. And so I was exhausted, and I'm looking forward to the weekend to kind of bounce back and recoup.
You know what I'm feeling? I'm feeling good with the extra room on the screen. A few less boxes on the video.
Yeah, look at this.
We can stretch out a little bit.
Also, I do want to say this, and I figured we might get to it at some point, but I'm literally I'm paying a little bit of respect to Ryan McDonough. Now, I don't think he deserves a ton of respect, but I did wear the Time to Rise 2018 shirt.
I'm wearing the timeline.
There you go. There you go.
Look, were there a lot of bad moves? Yes, we've covered them a million times. I mean, before you were here, we put them on trial, for God's sake. But there's no denying that this roster is significantly better than where he left it, or where he acquired the roster, and he gave them building blocks that now are paying dividends. And James Jones took it that next step. He understood how to build a group around these guys in Devin Booker, Mikhail Bridges, and DeAndre Ayton that put them in a contending spot. So congratulations to both guys on playing major parts in setting this team up for the success right now. That's what all this rebuild is about. And usually the GM that drafts the guys isn't the guy that sees the success, just like Hinkie in Philly. I mean, the process, the process wound up working because they got an Embiid and Ben Simmons, but he's not there to see the success. It's similar. So enough on that, though. We've looked into the past, and let's talk about. We'll stay in the past a little bit. Final thoughts on that Lakers series before we start looking ahead, which we'll spend a majority of the episode. Very excited to have the Athletics' Gina Mizell joining us in the program a little later on. We'll talk about her time with the organization and looking at this Nuggets series. But before we get there,
I'm not trying to call you out, but I don't think she's with the Athletic anymore. I think she works for the Phoenix Suns.
With the Suns, formerly with the Athletic is what I meant to say. Formerly with the Athletic.
We will not give any love on this show to any outlet that would release anybody like Gina Mizell in a year where the Suns could potentially do some crazy damage in the playoffs. What a bad move by the Athletic.
Somebody over there is going, oops, just like I just went, oops, I meant to say formerly with the Athletic, now with Suns.com. Gina will be joining us, and she does unbelievable work. I don't tell Dave, please don't tell Dave, but I think she's the best Suns writer in town. So,
despite the fact that she doesn't follow me on Twitter, I completely agree. I think she has this knack there's a knack to be professional and ask the tough questions without being a jerk about it. And that's mostly, her, Kellen Olson, those are the two that always stand out in my mind because they're there for everything, every practice, every press conference, every moment. And so those two just do a terrific job. And Gina's definitely one of the best for sure. But go ahead.
I was just going to say we'll continue the ass kissing when Gina gets here as well. But
for sure. Don't think I won't bring up the Twitter thing again.
Yeah, Saul's not bitter at all about certain things. So let's take a quick look back at that Lakers series and what now that we've had some time removed, I mean, we had an instant reaction right after the game, but now that we're a few days removed, what do you think was the biggest thing that stood out to you? How are you feeling about the series that was with the Lakers?
I think there's a couple things. I would say three, right? Number one, Devin Booker really balled out the last two games and showed everybody in the country just how good of a player he can be. Specifically game 5 in that he literally had the Mamba mentality. And I know we're playing the Lakers and all that stuff, but I mean, he loves Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant meant a lot to him. Just like Michael Jordan showed Kobe Bryant a little bit of the way in his younger upbringing, Kobe did the same thing for Devin. So this meant a lot to Devin. And the fact that he came in and just balled, especially in game 5, like I said, just terrific. Number 2, Deandre Ayton. I can't say enough about Deandre Ayton. Even in the last 2 games where, on the stat sheet, it doesn't look like he did much. His defensive presence meant the world to this team. And for a bunch of people out there who thought that, oh my gosh, the Lakers' size is going to be too much, they're going to be too much, DeAndre Ayton made that basically a non-factor for a large part of this series. And I'm so freaking happy about DeAndre Ayton. I've followed him since his U of A days. I'm so proud of that guy. And then number 3, how LeBron just kind of basically quit in sections of this series. And I can't help but think, as I was traveling to Idaho, I was rewatching the Last Dance, documentary, and I just couldn't help but think Michael would just never just walk back down on the other side of the court, give up on his teammates, leave the bench with 5 minutes left to go. Like, he just would never do that. And I know this LeBron's in the conversation for the greatest of all time debate and whatever. That kind of cemented it for me that he's not even a top 3 for me personally. So I just think LeBron, we give him a lot of credit, as we should, because he's one of the great players of all time. But in the greatest player of all time debate, there is no debate. He's just not.
Yeah, whatever. I couldn't care less about the LeBron debate right now, but you do bring up the Last Dance, and there's a part in the Last Dance where it's become a meme. Jordan's watching things, and then I took that personally, right?
every other scene, yes.
The Phoenix Suns were that way.
Mm-hmm.
Game 3, Lakers, LeBron messing around the sideline, dancing, Andre Drummond mimicking what LeBron's doing out on the court. They took that personally. They did not like getting, quite frankly, punked. They got kicked in the teeth in that game, and then the Lakers decide that they're going to celebrate and taunt at that same moment, and the Suns took that personally. And in the past, those are the kind of things that may have irritated a Suns team, but wouldn't have pushed them, wouldn't have driven them. I feel like it drove this team. And you saw it in the final moments of Game 6, where the salsa dance comes out from Jay Crowder. You've got at the same exact time CP3, who's LeBron's good buddy, doing the Andre Drummond, mimicking the back down move. Mm-hmm. You've got Devin chirping at the same time. I loved that. Now, some people be like, it's not sportsmanship, but if a team does that to you, and you say, you wait until the appropriate moment to do something like that when you have a series wrapped up, more power to you. They said, you know what, you may be the king, you may be the defending champions, but we're the now. We do not care what you did, who you think you are. We are here, and experience doesn't mean crap. We are here to win, and that's what they did.
The remarkable thing is they never gave the impression that either the Lakers were in their head or they were feeling any type of slight in any way, shape, or form until you get to that last minute, and then they basically are mocking the Lakers. Like, yeah, we didn't forget. We just didn't want to bother with that because we had business to take care of, which I very much appreciate. And for all the people out there that were upset that Jay Crowder got ejected, calm down there, Becca. because he got ejected with like less than 40 seconds left to go in the game. And hey, it was completely warranted and it was probably worth it. He probably got a little bit of a fine too. Who cares? It was worth every penny of it. He sprinted to the locker room to celebrate. Like I loved every second of it.
If he got a fine, I will personally start a GoFundMe because I'm pretty sure Suns fans will cover it. That was up there in the Kobe clothesline moment. Just great moments against the Lakers. I will forever remember the Crowder salsa dance. And he should start his own line of salsa because I would invest in that as well.
Yes. There's a shirt out there, actually. Somebody has already made that. I think you retweeted yesterday. And
yes.
It's in my cart. So
it's a great moment. And look, sportsmanship is one thing until the other team disrespects you. And like, they didn't start a fight. It wasn't like they started Malice in the Palace too. They said, you taunted us and we're going to give it right back to you and enjoy your vacation.
Yeah. I also think it's really incredibly unfair. And obviously we knew this was going to happen with the national narrative yesterday about, LeBron wasn't at 100% and AD was out and blah, 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 blah. If you step on that court, then you're ready to play. And both of those guys did in Game 6. Obviously, AD should never have been on the court in Game 6. No. And he sat out Game 5. But for LeBron himself, like, there is no excuse. Like, he showed enough burst in that third quarter to try and pull the Lakers back into the game to get the job done. He just didn't. And so there's a part of me that's like, okay, well, cool. Yeah, those two guys were injured, but Chris Paul was also injured, which is a significant part of this Suns offense and defense. The fact that he wasn't able to go 100% on the offensive side for a large part of the series was just as much a factor as LeBron and AD being injured. So, everybody wants to talk about the superstars and the defending champs, which is deserved because they are the defending champs. But at the same time, you got to give the Suns team some love. And I just don't feel like enough people are doing that. But it'll come. If they keep winning, it'll come. So.
Well, they're not the defending champs anymore because they're on the way to Cancun likely and sitting on a beach because there's nothing left to defend. They've been defeated by this Phoenix Suns team. One thing that stood out to me, Suns.com, their digital team does a great job with video, and they had the post-game locker room celebration, right, which was fantastic, and they showed CP3 talking about, hey, a decade ago, he's talking to Monty Williams. A decade ago, you and I were in the same position. 2-7 series against the same team. We lost 4-2. Well, now it's our time. It was something to that. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but something to that. That spoke to me how much that CP3 and Monty Williams want it this year. What it means to them, their connection, that excited me too. So I loved seeing that. So, but let's bring in somebody that is connected with that Suns.com team, a great content team over there. It's Gina Mizell. Gina, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a while, but we're so glad to have you back on the show.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So let me ask, you've had the opportunity to work with the team this year, experience a lot of what's going on. As somebody that's literally an insider, is there something special going on here? Do you feel something different with this team? You've covered a lot of teams, but is there something unique with this group?
I do think there's something unique, and I think it's a product too of just the society and the world that we've been living in during 2020 and even into 2021, where I've read a lot of stories, and I think they're all 100% true about just how much of a grind this NBA season was for a lot of teams, whether it was just coming from the bubble and then immediately having to turn around if they made a deep playoff run, whether it was the testing every day, the quarantining, the protocols, not being able to be around friends and family on the road, or just all of that. And I think the Suns have kind of taken that, and certainly those are all hard things to deal with just in your everyday life. But that's, I think, in some ways brought them like closer together, and they've really leaned on each other. And whether that's the leadership from Monty Williams and Chris Paul all the way down the roster, before the playoffs started, I wrote a story kind of about that and how they built that chemistry with a lot of new players. Like the core was here, obviously, with Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Mikhail Bridges, and a couple others. But as a new team, how they built that so quickly under very bizarre circumstances. And I think you've seen that kind of show itself in different instances throughout the season. And I think you definitely saw it during the first round against the Lakers too, when this team was down 2-1. And I think a lot of people were feeling pretty nervous about that. Okay, is this magical season going to come to an end against the defending champs, and to come back and to win 3 games in a row, to manage Chris Paul's injury and to overcome that, and to do it and close out a game with an amazing performance from Devin Booker on the Lakers' home floor, I think showed a lot about kind of the quality of this team. And then you see it even more in that locker room video that you referenced, and just that connection that you can see between those guys and kind of those like authentic, organic behind the scenes moments. So yeah, I think there is something special, and I think you need to have a special team in order to make it this far or to be a significant title contender. And I think the Suns are continuing to show that they perhaps deserve to be in that class.
You know, Gina, you got here in 2018 after covering the Nuggets, which we'll get to in a second. But you were here that first season when Kokoshkov was here. There was some tough times there. But DA, Booker, and Mikhail, all 3 of them here. What have you seen from those 3 and their transition the last 2 years really to get to this point?
Yeah, I mean, just continued growth, right? And that's what this team was hoping for from a lot of these lottery picks in previous years. And these are the ones that they hit on, obviously, which you can make an argument that they should have hit on more and there should be more young players or whatever. But, Devin Booker's continued ascension into, now that next tier, I think, of star and the way that he's performed on a playoff stage. Now, of course, it's only 1 round, so you got to keep seeing it from him on even bigger and bigger stages. But, his continued rising up to the moment, I think, has been really neat to see, and kind of finally the national recognition, which I think started in the bubble when he hit the game winner against the Clippers. That was kind of his first big postseason type moment, but I think we're continuing to see that. And then, DeAndre Ayton, I mean, if you would have told me before the series started that he would be the most consistent Suns player and efficient and more aggressive than we've seen him, I maybe, not that I wouldn't have believed you, but I would have been like, wow, okay, because I thought he was going to be the major X factor in the series. Like, okay, do we get good DeAndre or not so good DeAndre? And we saw very good DeAndre up until, he didn't have a great stat line in game 6, but I think he still had a presence. Obviously, they needed to go small for a lot of that game, so he didn't need to, do as much on the floor. And Booker and some other guys sort of carried them. And then Mikhail Bridges, too. I mean, again, kind of offensively, maybe not as consistent during the Lakers series, but overall, as a defender, the way that he's grown, and I think being tossed into, okay, you're going to guard the best perimeter player on the opposing team as a rookie, like get thrown into the fire, I think is benefiting him now, even though it was probably pretty challenging in your first season. But the way his offensive game has expanded, and he's not just a catch and shoot 3 guy anymore. He's able to kind of get that pull up in the lane. He can finish in transition with athleticism and strength that I think surprises a lot of people. And I think you will have a chance to see that maybe a little bit more during these playoffs. So no, those are the 3 guys that when Monty Williams was hired, they're the only 3 guys who are left. And there's a reason that they're the 3 guys who are left, because they are the building blocks of this team for the long term. And, certainly it's been really neat to see their continued development and just the potential, I think, is still incredibly, incredibly high for all 3 of those players.
One of the big takeaways that I had from Igor to Monty, for instance, is Igor always talked about Devin Booker, whereas Monty came in, talked about the program, our program. This is how we're going to run our program. I think that's a major difference there because it kind of tells the rest of the team you're just as important as the superstar of this team, right? Have you seen that? Is that what you feel as well, or is there a different mindset that you think we can point to when it comes to Monty Williams from the previous regime?
I mean, I think it really is just the way he's able to connect with all of the players from, he's got the respect of Devin Booker, which obviously you need that, and of Chris Paul for that matter. But I guess if we're talking about since the very beginning, and they've got a great rapport, and then it filters on down to, the whole rest of the roster. I mean, everyone truly, I think on that team and even on the staff, like Monty Williams is revered. And I don't use that word lightly. And if you look across the league and the people that he's worked with throughout his career, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody more respected around the league than Monty, because of the way he conducts himself, because of the way he leads, because of the way, he's obviously handled immense adversity in his own life, and just the way he's been able to, overcome that and now sort of impart this wisdom on the team. And yeah, I kind of go back to the story that I wrote a couple weeks ago about all of his different catchphrases and his mantras. And we hear them. Whenever I was working on that story, I would be like, okay, if I hear this all the time, I know you as players are hearing it like 5,000 times more than I am. But it's not these like cheesy catchphrases. It's like actual things that people can take, whether it's players, coaches, other people on staff, even like regular people like us, that sort of keep you focused and keep you thinking about the most important things in life. And I mean, yeah, the mantra of everything you want is on the other side of hard, like that. Who can't relate to that? And it's authentic, and it's real, and it's not cheesy, and it's not coach speak. It comes from a good place. And so I think, when you look at he's like the perfect coach for this type of team, which you think about back 2 years ago when he was hired, it's widely reported, obviously, that he had his choice between the Suns or the Lakers. And you wonder, I mean, I'm sure he would have been a great coach of that Lakers team. I'm sure LeBron would have respected him and that whole group. But really, I think kind of this young, up and coming, rising team that maybe needs a little more guidance as human beings and team building and all of that kind of organic stuff. I think Monty is just like the perfect fit, which is it's worked out really well that kind of all these people sort of came together at this moment. And now 2 years later, we're sort of seeing the result of that.
Gina Mizell of Suns.com joining us here on the show. Gina, Saul talked about it. You have previously covered the Nuggets in Denver. A lot of talk that we hear when going into a series, or if you're going to play a team in Denver, is the altitude. I mean, it's the Mile High City for a reason. And how much of an impact do you think that really has on athletes, having seen it firsthand, and especially when there's a chance you have to play 3 of these 7 games there in this series?
I think it's a factor, but I don't think it's like a deciding factor. I mean, you guys, pretty much anytime a team would roll through Denver, my season covering them, they'd be asked about it. And so they're like, oh yeah, it's definitely a factor. And you wonder if it's like confirmation bias, or if they're like, not that they're making an excuse, but they're like, yes, this definitely is a factor, in the same way that in a normal year, perhaps like the nightlife in New York or LA or Chicago, there's all kinds of things that could impact a team that are like sort of outside non-basketball factors. But yeah, I mean, it definitely is. I noticed it when I lived there, like when I first moved there, that you're huffing and puffing a little bit more if you're trying to like exercise or trying to hike or trying to do anything that's physically active. But these are also
or get drunk faster. Yeah.
That, yes.
I know.
Yes, all of those things. But do I think that's going to swing the series one way or the other? No. So I think guys need to be prepared for it. Obviously, everyone on that roster, except for I guess like a Jalen Smith, even a Jalen Smith perhaps, has experienced it at this point. So and also the fact that you have 2 games there, you're not just coming like in and out of the city. That time in between, I think maybe might help adjust a tiny, tiny bit too, where you get sort of your lungs get used to it a little bit more.
Well, talking about a guy that had mile high expectations and lived up to them this series, though, or this season, Nikola Jokic. How unbelievable has that guy's progression been, and how big of a problem do you think he may be for DeAndre Ayton, even though we saw DA take that step in round 1?
Yeah. Well, Nikola's been awesome. And again, sort of watching my season that I covered them in 2017-18, that was sort of they reminded me of the Suns from the bubble in a lot of ways, and that you could tell they were on the cusp. And part of that was Nikola Jokic was on the cusp. And that was the last season he did not make the All-Star team, and then had a great second half of the season. And that's kind of propelled him to the stratosphere that he's in now. But I mean, it's funny. I was out to dinner with some family last night when we were talking about the series, and they're casual fans, and now they're kind of getting into the Suns. And I was like, okay, when you watch the Nuggets, you're going to see this like big 7-foot Serbian dude that you're not going to think is good at basketball. And oh, by the way, he's the MVP of the league. and I mean, his passing, his court vision, his shooting, the way the physical specimen that he is and the way he can rebound and all of that has just been, he's one of the most fun players in the league to watch. And he's, obviously taken himself to a different stratosphere even than when I covered him. And as far as Deandre Ayton's concerned, I can't wait to see this matchup, not just because of the step that he made in round one, but also those 2 back-to-back games against Denver back in January, which feels like forever ago when the Suns lost in overtime both games. Deandre Ayton played really well in those 2 games and really stood up to Jokic. And that was kind of the first flash that you saw from him this year of being like, okay, is he starting to figure it out? And I remember Jokic had some really nice comments about DA after one of those games. I think it was after the second one when they were done playing, but that's going to be a blast to watch because, again, it's been forever since these 2 teams have played each other. I think both teams are in much different places, and just to kind of see that battle, it's going to be obviously a massive, massive part of this series moving forward.
When we talk about DA's mentality, one of the things that always stands out to me is he, for the most part, he always gets up for a challenge, right? And when you're coming into this series and you got the MVP right in front of you, you have to play your A game. Otherwise, you might be going home. When he comes onto the court, do you see that same thing? And is it a matter of just education and maybe just the process of finding those small things, even when you're not playing the MVP, of trying to find things that are going to motivate you like the greats do? Like they'll find the smallest little thing. We were just talking about a little bit ago, Espo, about how Michael Jordan would be like, and George Karl walked by me in the restaurant, didn't even say hi. And right. I took that personally. It's like, you know what I mean? So is that something that you can learn? Do you think that's something Devin Booker has kind of learned that maybe he can relay on to DA, or is that just maybe an inner trait that he has?
Yeah, I think you definitely, that's stuff that you can learn just as you go throughout your career, because again, the NBA season, the regular season, it's a grind and it's tough. And, in the middle of January, when you're halfway through the season and you're on some East Coast trip, you're like in Cleveland and it's 20 degrees and it's snowing and just you're maybe not as fired up to do your job, period, whether it's basketball or something else. But you do have to kind of find just that inner motivation or just something that can push you on that day. And I think every person kind of has to figure out what that is for them. But as far as DA being up for a challenge, throughout his career, that's kind of been a constant, that he gets up to play. Even his rookie season, he would get up to play Giannis. He would get up to play LeBron. He would get up to play like some of those, even when maybe his team lost or he didn't perform as well against those bigger names, like you could tell that he was super engaged in it. And so I see no reason to believe that he would not be super engaged for this matchup. And I'm sure the Nuggets watched DeAndre and said, okay, this is a guy who's maybe taken another step or that we need to focus on even more. And so all of that chess match and all of that, like whether it's game to game, round to round throughout these playoffs, that's what's really fun to watch. But that's DA's mentality has been a major storyline throughout his whole career. And, you saw him very consistently locked in and playing with authority in that first round. And now, again, it gets even tougher with you got to play the MVP or you got to match up with the MVP. So cannot wait to see how he, responds as these playoffs keep going.
So it's been a bit of a different year for you as well, Gina. You have kind of transitioned from being beat writer and having to do the normal things for a beat writer to being able to tell more of these stories, really getting deep and finding these stories. What has been your favorite story to tell this year, and why was it your favorite? What was it about the particular story that you enjoyed most?
Yeah, it's been really fun to dive deep, and that's like the most fun part for, I feel like, any writer, any journalist, is to do that type of work. And so the Monty Mantra piece was really, really fun to do, mostly because that's seriously a story I'd been wanting to do for like a year and a half. Like even going back to last season when I started hearing these phrases over and over, I was like, hey, this would be a good story. And I kind of planted some seeds even back then, but to actually have that come to fruition and to have that out there and for people to enjoy it and respond to it has been really, really cool. And then something that kind of ties back to what you were mentioning when I first came on, I did a story about Chris Paul and all of his New Orleans connections that have all sort of come back with the Suns. And Monty's obviously at the top of that list, but also Willie Green was one of his teammates with the Hornets. And they're now they became best friends from that time in their career. And now they're obviously working together because Willie Green's an assistant on the staff. Jeff Bauer was on the Hornets staff that drafted Chris Paul way back in the day. And he had some great stories when I talked to him about even when they were together in Oklahoma City, when they had to relocate because of Katrina. And so that was a really fun way to kind of dig back into Chris Paul's past. And I feel like that sort of showed, why he was comfortable coming to the Suns and why the Suns were confident that he was the type of guy that was sort of the missing piece to propel this team forward, that there was just a comfort level, a connection, a confidence from both sides. And it really just comes from the history that they had together. And so that was a really fun story to kind of dive into and report. And then it came out one of the times they played in New Orleans. So I think like mid-February. So that was even before he was an all-star, before it was in the MVP conversation, before the Suns finished second in the West. It was kind of a mid-season story. But I always like those types of pieces because, yes, we love sports because of the tactical stuff and the matchups and the games. But at the end of the day, these are all people, and the people are what's most interesting to me, and how those people create this team that then creates this product on the floor that's either really good or not so good, and it's all sort of part of it. And so yeah, those types of stories are really fun. And so yeah, I would point those two out as my favorites that I got to do this year.
Go ahead. 1 second. So, Gina, you can confirm that Jeff Bauer does exist. There's a running joke on Suns Twitter that he does not.
Well, if you're ever at a game, he sits like right next to James Jones on the baseline. Like it's him, Ryan Resch, and Jeff Bauer. So yes, if you're ever in the building, you can see him very easily.
Well, you can understand. People hadn't been in the building a while either, so it just kind of fueled it. So.
I'm kidding, but yes,
he's the man behind the curtain.
Yes, I'm aware of the joke, and he's not as front facing as James Jones. He's and yeah, so I get it. I get it for sure.
I'm not going to put you on the spot, Gina, because I know you work for the team, and I'm not going to say, do you think that Suns will go to the NBA Finals? But what I will ask is, if there's one thing that if the Suns made it to the NBA Finals, it's because of X. What is that X?
Who? Wow. I mean, this is such a cop-out answer, but if they play the way they've played this season, like if the ingredients line up, the easiest thing would be to say, if Chris Paul's shoulder heals all the way and he's 100% and this team's at full strength, I think that's a great sign that this team has a great chance. But if they play the defense that they've played for most of the season, if DeAndre Ayton continues to play the way he does, if Devin Booker continues to show out the way he did in the first round, if the collectiveness and the ball movement is there, I mean, yeah, if this team can keep playing the way that they have during the regular season, they were the most consistent team, one of the most consistent teams in the NBA this season, and they swept the Utah Jazz. So that's like all of that would line up. So yeah, we could dive into all kinds of things that are X factors or the deciding factor, but really you don't need that with the Suns team when it's like, if they just do what they've done this season, if they've been the team they've been this season, they were the second best team in the NBA and would have a great chance to go to the finals. So like I said, that's probably a cop-out answer, but that's
that's spoken like a true professional. You made one answer into four. So yeah, it was great.
That's what we do.
All of the above.
All of the above. There you go.
That's what we do here. Just less well. You have a way with words that we lack. So thank you for that, Gina. Before we let you go, I hope you've been taking notes all year, because I can't wait to read the book about this season, and I'm hoping that we get one, because this has been one heck of a ride, and I'm so glad that you have been on the inside and been able to share these stories, because in a year where we've all felt somewhat disconnected in general with life, you've provided a connection with this team and a window inside, and I really do appreciate that, Gina. I don't know if you've heard that enough from the fans. So
I do have one question. Your access is a little bit different than traditional media access, because you do work for the team. So are you able to see more things than everybody else for the most part?
So yeah, honestly, it's maybe not as good as you might think, because just the travel party and the access to the facility was super, super tight this year. So I was not able to go to the facility either, because I was not in that very tight group that was the travel party. But I did travel for the playoffs. I did go to LA. And so even just being there for to see those moments that you don't see on TV. And I give credit to the Lakers and to Staples Center, because if you were vaccinated, you were able to sit in the normal media seating, which is right behind the basket. So for instance, during the series, when Campaign had those fans like barking at him during game 3, they were like sitting right next to me. And so I could actually hear the exchange happening. Or after game 6, I caught Devin when he walked off the court, pointing up to the coach, like something that I saw that I would never have seen if I was just watching it on TV. So being able to see those types of moments and to kind of feel the energy of the building has been really nice. And, you know, hopefully as the playoffs continue and maybe things continue to get a little bit better, maybe there will be more opportunity for some access. But being back on the road has been really, really nice during the playoffs, because that is where you see all the, you know, kind of more behind the scenes stuff. And yeah, it's been a strange year for everybody, and we've kind of had to push through those challenges. But I'm glad that the writing and the work that we've done has helped some fans, you know, feel a little bit more connected to a team that sort of circle it back. It is, I think, special, and has been just such a weird, strange, unique, awesome, fabulous, unexpected season. And hopefully there's plenty more to cover and to write about and to talk about in the days and weeks to come.
She is Gina Mizell of Suns.com. Gina, let everybody know where they can follow you and keep up with your great work.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Gina Mizell, GinaMizell, and then all of our work is on Suns.com. So we'll be continuing to write. Myself and my colleague Cody Cunningham are sort of holding down the fort, and we've got lots of stuff planned for round 2, and can't wait to keep going.
But so glad to see Cody's success. He was an intern when I was in that department, and he's come a very long way, and it's great to see that. And we're glad to see your success as well, Gina. Make sure to follow her on Twitter. One of the best follows. And Gina, I want to thank you for not following Saul on Twitter, because it drives him out. So please don't ever follow him on Twitter.
I don't know why it's never happened. I was like, I see her every day. Maybe she just doesn't like me.
No. Okay, so and here's the thing is, when I first started covering the team, you guys all pop up in my timeline anyway. And so I think I went through this phase where I followed a bunch of people, and then I thought that I had followed like everybody, and then suddenly I have not. So I will correct that, and I feel terrible, because guess what, Saul, you are not the only one that that this has happened to. Like, there's a couple people that are like, why don't you follow me? And I'm like, I didn't mean to.
It's all good.
You don't follow me either, but I'm not petty like Saul. So
I wasn't going to bring it up. No. I brought it up earlier, but I wasn't going to bring it up now.
Yeah, I apologize for that. And watch. Okay, here we go. We're going to do this right now.
Live on the show.
Live on our messages, and because you were able to DM me. Here we go. Follow.
I wasn't able to DM you. I literally yesterday, to try and get you on the show, I was like, oh, I'll reach out to her. I see it. I appreciate it. Thank you, Gina.
If we accomplished one thing today, it was that we got Gina to follow us on Twitter. So there you go.
Now I feel like a jerk.
No.
I feel like the jerk. Now we got guilt follows.
Exclusive club. It's because you all pop up in my timeline anyway. Like, I don't even realize that I'm not following, because everyone's retweeting you guys all the time.
It's all good. I tried to pull the same shit with Devin Booker, but it didn't work. So.
Gina,
exclusive club. Devin Booker also does not follow me, so it's fine.
He was my rookie. I had to help that guy learn a bunch of stuff. He didn't follow me either, so it's fine. So
you have no idea. Gina. Wait, Gina. Before we go, we got to show you this now, since Espo wanted to bring it up so desperately. No. We have to bring this up, because this is his guidance when it comes to Devin Booker. This
was literally the first time I met him.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I don't know where they're at. They're at Papa's Fun Place or something. I don't know what's going on.
Gorilla's Greenhouse. I think it's the fries.
It looks like a McDonald's play place.
If anybody asked, that hoop is 9.5 feet tall, not 7. So thanks for embarrassing me. Gina, thank you for having some fun with us this morning. I appreciate it.
I hope you guys have a great weekend, and let's enjoy this series, guys.
Thank you. Safe travels as you head to Denver as well, and And thank you for everything you're doing for the fan base. She is Gina Mizell. Follow her on Twitter at Gina Mizell. Head to Suns.com. Get all of her great content. We appreciate her. And Saul, you were dead to me after showing that video.
You brought it up, man.
Hey,
you wanted some shine. I gave you some shine, baby.
I didn't say, hey, embarrass me.
Oh, I followed Devin Booker around his rookie season.
I'm just glad.
Let me give a sample so she can see what we're talking about.
I'm just glad you haven't found a few other videos that were out there.
Project.
There is a Devin Booker beating me by 80 points in NBA 2K from his from his rookie trading camp. Me dunking with the gorilla. You're never going to find those. I had those buried. And when I say I had those buried, the Suns deleted them as quick as I left the franchise for their own sake. So that's a
good move. That's a smart move. You can't hate on them for that one.
I'm glad that they did that for all of us. I'm so glad that Gina took a few minutes with us, as she really has provided some great insight and interesting stories there as well. And I'm not kidding. I hope we get a book out of this season, because one of my favorite books is called the Little Team That Could and darn near did. It was a book by Joe Gilmartin, the late great Joe Gilmartin, that followed the 75-76 Suns team on their magical run, and it's one of my favorites. And hope we get a book out of this. So
yeah, I think we will. I think we will. There's so much great content out there, and you had mentioned Cody Cunningham, who if you don't follow him, you should. But even Cody's progression as a writer has gotten, has gone up another level, I would say, since Gina joined the program. And I assume that they're working together a lot and developing storylines. And the thing about what they're writing is like, yes, it's a very pro Suns slant, right? But you don't know that if you don't know that they work for the team. That's what I enjoy about it. It's very unbiased. This is the observation that I have about this team. And this is what's going on, and it's just fantastic work.
Look, having been somebody that had to sit in that seat, of course you're not going to write a negative hit piece, but that doesn't mean you're not getting amazing access and interesting insights and providing unique takes. And Cody's done a great job with it. Gina has, and it's valuable. It's things that we wouldn't know otherwise. It's an inside look, and there's nothing wrong with that. We live in a world that's full of bias in one way or another, and we're a group that loves the Suns, so I don't care if I get a little pro Suns in my feed. So thank you to that. Thank you to the chat, who's not being as mean about that video as I thought.
No, they're actually taking it out on DA. They're like, well, if Espo can dunk, why can't DA? And I'm like, come on, guys.
DA could dunk on a 6.5 foot hoop, no problem. Don't you worry about that. Anyway. So we talked with Gina a little bit about the Nuggets series, but I want you and I to get into this because we haven't had a whole lot of chance to talk about it. We spent a lot of time talking about that Lakers series, and now it's time to shift the focus. It's time to look ahead. The Western Conference semifinals begin Monday night, 7:00, and you're home court advantage. So first two are here in Phoenix, just like in that Lakers series, which I think is huge. But you look at this Nuggets team, and it's not the same team that the Suns faced early in the year. I mean, they had finished with their 3-game series with the Nuggets in early January, right? Jamal Murray was still there. They had a lot of different starters at the time. Paul Millsap was starting for them. Just a different look for the Nuggets. This team, despite the Jamal Murray injury, has continued to play at a high level. Nikola Jokic, obviously the presumed MVP. Michael Porter Jr. has kind of blossomed in a way that I think we felt DA did over this year. Michael Porter Jr. has done the same for them, and it's interesting. It's interesting to see how well they've been able to play and be able to do that without one of their big guys. But it does create in this series a very unique set of circumstances where the Lakers were this big team, lots of superstars. How are you going to beat it? This series is going to be Nikola Jokic, the Joker versus Dat Man, DA going up against the Joker there, and how much can DA kind of counteract Nikola Jokic, and then what can the Suns guards do against a depleted group there in Denver? Can Devin Booker take it to Austin Rivers? Which the answer should be yes, and twice on Sundays, right?
Yeah.
But it's a very depleted backcourt. How do you see this series and what the Nuggets are bringing into it that the Suns are going to have to counteract?
Just like a lot of our chat says, I am leaning Suns in 6. I think depth is what's ultimately going to get the Nuggets. I think, when you're talking about their starting lineup, they got as good a starting lineup right now, even without Jamal Murray, as anybody else in the league. You got Aaron Gordon, who's a super athletic power forward. He can match up a little bit with DA from time to time. He can play he can guard all 5 positions. And then, but Gary Harris being out or being injured, that hurts them quite a bit, especially with Jamal Murray being out. So their backcourt is suffering. If Chris Paul is what Chris Paul was in the fourth quarter against the Lakers, plus healthier, because we assume he's going to be a little bit healthier, he's going to recover a little bit more with that shoulder. I just don't see the Nuggets being able to compete with the Suns long term in a series like this, because the Suns, hey, they put it to you defensively, and that's what's going to wear you down. And I think MPJ is going to get his, but you got to limit Jokic. And everybody else offensively, I feel like isn't as high. I'm sorry, I didn't mean Gary Harris. I'm sorry. And so I think overall the Suns team's got enough to beat this Nuggets team. It's not going to be easy though. One bad thing can go wrong, and then all of a sudden the series is a nail biter. But I feel pretty confident in the Suns right now.
Yeah, I feel this matchup plays a little bit better for the Suns than we felt that the Lakers series obviously went in the Suns' favor, but I think the matchup wasn't as favorable as this one is. I mean, DA isn't going to shut down Jokic, but when you look at when they went head to head in a couple of those games, I believe it was like that in one of the games, DA held Jokic to 2 of 9 shooting when they were playing together. But the switching on defense is going to be what's going to become most important, because that's what Denver's going to try to do. They're not going to want this to be a straight up DA versus Jokic. That matchup isn't where Jokic is going to win. It's when they're going to force a switch and a Devin Booker or a Jay Crowder or somebody with less size is on Jokic. And that's going to mean the Suns are going to have to be better at consciously fighting through picks, trying to figure out how not to switch into an unfavorable matchup that goes in Jokic's favor in this.
This guy Jokic is averaging 33 points a game in the playoffs right now, and I'm like, there's just no way. I'm not going to say no way, but I will say that it's going to be a more of a challenge for him to go up against DA and still drop 33, 10, and he was only averaging 5 assists against the Trailblazers because he had to score. And MPJ, 20 points basically, or 19 points a game, and then Monty Morris is who I was referring to before, but he's at 15. So, but overall, there's nothing that really stands out about this Nuggets team that makes you like super scared outside of Jokic. But at the same time, for the casual observer out there, outside of Devin Booker, Chris Paul's been injured, so there's nothing that. Maybe Denver fans are probably saying the same thing. Well, there's nothing about the Suns that scares me. I'm like, okay, well, come get this sauce and you'll find out. And so we'll see how it all plays out in game 1 for sure.
Look, Mikhail Bridges on MPJ is going to be the matchup, at least defensively, of the series. You're going to have to shut him down, because I don't know who in the chat mentioned it, but Jokic is going to get his. I mean, in all likelihood, the guy has played out of his mind all year. You're not going to completely shut down Jokic, but it's
you just have to slow him down. That's all you have to.
Yeah, do. But how you slow him down is by cutting off his other options too. Like
and just like somebody just said it in the chat. Really, Nicholas Tan just said it in the chat, is that Portland was very focused on making Jokic beat them and nobody else. but that didn't really work out in Game 6 when MPJ has 22 in the first quarter. You know what I mean?
Well, and Portland's defense isn't what the Suns' defense is, obviously.
Very true.
Portland's offense, was very one-dimensional in the series. It was Dame Lillard and nobody else really helping him out. That's what the Suns can't fall into. This can't become Devin Booker dropping 50 every game and nobody else helping him either, because I think that will play into Denver's favor. You'll wind up playing very much like Portland did. Now, I don't think that'll be the case. And Herbie brings up a great point that we talked about on the last post game, but Torrey Craig, I think, plays a big part in this.
Yeah.
Having been with that Nuggets organization last year, he knows a lot about this team. I think he's going to come in and not only help in practice, but be a guy that can come out on the court and be a disruptor as well. But to me, one of the biggest factors is DeAndre Ayton can't get in foul trouble, because we'll split hairs over who should be the backup, Frank or Dario. But let me tell you something. It doesn't matter if either one of those guys have to go up against Jokic. He will cook them. Does not matter which one it is. And that you're going to have to match DeAndre Ayton's minutes with Nikola Jokic's minutes in this series. Every time Jokic comes off the floor, DA should be coming off the floor. Every time Jokic comes in, DA should go in. He should be his shadow. He should not give any more room than Nikola Jokic's shadow gives him. Anywhere he goes, DA should be in this series, and that foul trouble could be the one thing that scares me.
We talked about the other day too about Dario. And some people seem to think that Dario will be more effective in this series. I'm not one of those people. I think Dario is more inside his head than anything else at this point, and he's lacking confidence big time. But we'll see what happens. And I agree. I think Torrey Craig. There's so many possible X factors. Cam Johnson could be an X factor in this series. It's just. I think the two teams match up fairly well against each other, so I think it makes for a fun style of a ball game, more than the Lakers, because the Lakers want to slow you down, and they got a lot of veterans, but they got quite a few old people that are up there in the NBA age, right? So coming from a 41-year-old, I'm calling a 34-year-old LeBron James old, but in basketball years, that's true. And so when you're talking about the Nuggets, though, not the case. Everybody on that team is about the same age, if not, just a little bit older, a little bit younger than the Suns. So, this is going to be a fun series. I think this is going to be a funner series to watch than the Lakers series, because I just feel like the offensive firepower on both ends is going to be fun to watch. The matchups are going to be fun to watch. And watching DA, I really enjoyed watching DA in the Lakers series. And I think I'm just going to like it even more in this series. And if I do like it more in this series, that means that the Suns are probably going to move on to the Western Conference Finals. If I don't like it in this series, not so hot.
Look, I think this is a preview of a battle that we're going to have to go through numerous times when it comes to the Western Conference and the Suns. If this Suns team's built for long-term success, the Nuggets are going to be a team that's right there with them that entire time. And I think Jokic will always wind up being a measuring stick for DA and a guy that he's going to have to go up against and prove himself. So Brian in the chat, Paul Millsap is 45. Yes, he is. He brings he brings up that average on the Denver average age. Any fear that there's going to be letdown? I'm a little afraid, at least in game one.
No, I don't think that, because I feel like the Suns knew that they should have wrapped up this series against the Lakers early, especially after game 5 and watching AD in the first minute or two. I mean, that was the game plan coming in, right? They were like, well, let's see how good AD really is. And they found out real quick, like, yeah, he ain't going to be a factor. So if it was like, a nip and tuck series and it went game 7 and it was a nail biter, and, I would be a little bit concerned of a letdown, especially with such a quick turnaround. But you have 3 days in between. You're going to get rest. Monty's going to get them refocused. Chris Paul was already trying to get them refocused in the locker room after the game. Said, yeah, we're happy that we beat these guys, but we still got more work to do. And Devin Booker's been on that road. He's been on that message. He's like, hey, it was great to beat the Lakers, but that's step 1. we got more to go. And so I don't feel like it's going to be a letdown. Plus, Suns fans, you ain't going to let this team let down. Not with that crazy crowd. That not going to happen in that arena because, hey, Suns fans are bringing it. And I think that's what's going to happen on Monday. They'll be plenty ready to go.
We need a good Denver chant. Beat LA is so good. There needs to be a good chant. Cook the Nuggets. Like I don't know. Something's got to become up. Fans have got to get creative out there.
Cook the Nuggets, sponsored by Wendy's.
Yep. Look, hey, we'll sponsor anything around here. I'll sell ads on Shell's forehead if it gets us some cash in the door. Speaking of cash in the door, it's time for the smooth baller. We're gonna call it of the series. Got Bush? Not if you got Manscaped. Trim that bad boy with the new lawnmower 4.0 at manscaped.com. You'll close shave and you'll like it. And so will she. Our smooth baller of the series has to be Devin Booker. There's nobody smoother than that. 29.7 points, 6.2 rebounds, 5 assists, and a 42.9 3-point percentage for the series. Devin Booker balling out and doing it smoothly. If you want to save 20% on your Manscaped product, head to manscaped.com. Use the code FLAMINGBALLERS. Get free shipping, 20% off. If you don't want your boys to look like Saul's chin, we recommend getting the lawnmower 4.0. Thank you to our friends over at Manscaped, one of the groups that have supported this show all season long, and we appreciate you guys. So yeah, take care and take advantage of that 20% off at manscaped.com. Use the code FLAMINGBALLERS.
So I'm very proud of you right now.
Why is that?
If we rewind all the way back to the very first time you did a Manscaped ad, I think that thing took like 10 minutes because all you wanted to do was drop ball puns. And look at you. You've cut it down to like a minute, man. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. And I made fun of your chin. I mean, that's all I need.
Yeah, it's all coming around full circle.
All right. Before we get out of here, I want to know if you were to invest, because I didn't put together a big board. I'm trying to come up with something.
Oh, I got something else to talk about too. So
okay, well let me throw this out, and then we can get to yours. If you were to invest money, right? If I'm saying, you know what, I need you to invest a mortgage payment, right? Would you invest it in the Suns beating Denver, Devin Booker having truly ascended with that last series into stardom in the NBA, or in Jay Crowder's new salsa line? Which one are you going to put your money in as the one that you think is the most likely for success for you?
Ooh, I do like me some salsa, but I don't think Jay Crowder makes a good salsa.
I don't know. I've never eaten it. So
I'm probably going to defer to. So it's between Booker and the Suns beating the Nuggets. I have confidence in the Suns beating the Nuggets. I do, but I think Devin Booker is on the doorstep of superstardom in the NBA, and this series is what's going to put him over the top. And so I'm going to go with Devin Booker.
You know, I feel like Jay Crowder's salsa would be very much like the Thunder Dan candy bars.
Yeah.
You'd find it in the back of your fridge about 10 years later and go, oh, that was a fun time. There's still people that find Dan Marley chocolate bars in the back of their freezer now, 25 years later. So, but I think you're right. That'd be a novelty act. And if I'm looking for sustainability, how I'm going to make that money off my mortgage payment, this is almost a push situation. I think both of them would make you your money back, quite frankly. But if I'm going for the quick money, I'm going to say Suns in 7, and they'd beat the Nuggets. So I put my mortgage payment on that. Don't tell the missus though, because I don't know that we have a mortgage payment to gamble on it. So.
Fair enough.
So what's your what do you want to bring up?
Well, 28 years ago today, pretty cool thing happened. The Suns made it to the Western Conference Finals. And they played in Game 7, and one Sir Charles Barkley had a freaking amazing game. And so I just figured, hey, this is a good time to talk about how my man went 44-24 and just completely ripped to shreds the Seattle Supersonics, and they were called the Supersonics at the time. It's just a great ball game. 44-24. I can't even fathom that right now, especially the rebounding part. 24 rebounds in addition to 44 points. So I wanted to bring that up. That's also because our man Dave's not here, so I figured I would.
Ooh, Dave, stat me.
Ooh, Saul, stat me with the
stat,
retro video.
Yeah.
No, look, I think we could see DA probably not in this series, maybe not in this playoffs, but he's a guy that could grab 24 rebounds in a game. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but it reminds you of just how unbelievable Barkley was in that run. I thought Booker was going to get close to his 56. He had 56 in that first round series against the Warriors.
Yeah.
I thought Booker was going to get close to that in that game 6, but that's a point. That 44, obviously Booker surpassed that, but I think he can get close to that 56 before this playoffs is over.
44 in the Western Conference Finals, Game 7, everything on the line. You got Michael Jordan waiting for you in the next round. And Barkley said that was the best game of his life. That's the best he's ever played in his life. And so just, and I was around, obviously you were around too. We were both alive at that point. But I was going into my freshman year of high school at that point. Yes, I'm that old. And just to be around this city at that time, this is all bringing that back. It's all bringing that back, and the feeling, the vibe. Everywhere you go, you're starting to see Suns gear now. You're starting to see people wave their orange flag or the Valley flag now, which has all of a sudden become the second logo, if you will, for this franchise. It's just so much fun, Espo. And after, I was, like I said, when we brought it up with Gina, like I remember talking to Gina after some of these press conferences or these little media scrums with Igor Kokoshkov, and just turning around, walking away and being like, what the hell is going on right now? Like, it just didn't make any sense. And it just felt like we were going the wrong way. And to see where we're at now, 3 years later, it's just, it makes my heart happy, man.
Well, let me say one thing. I was 9 during that playoff run, if you want to feel old. And then,
I was only 12, so it's all good.
Well, I guess we're not that far apart.
Yeah, you act like we're like a decade apart, dude.
Well,
and I'm like, no, it's because you probably color your beard. Calm down.
It's because I'm so used to being around Dave, who's like old enough to be my dad. I forget, but I shouldn't do that. Dave's not here to tell me he is old. But when you look at it, that team was so special. But then you bring up what we've been through. You didn't get the joy of Lindsey Hunter and those press conferences. You didn't get the joy of Earl Watson, I don't believe. No. Where you know what, you get great sayings from Monty that are truly, okay, I believe in these. You got if Monty is the Nordstrom of a good saying, you got the Walmart of a saying from Earl Watson. It was like in Cliff Notes when or you get a bad translation of something. That was what Earl Watson did compared to what Monty Williams is doing. So yeah, we've been a lot of places, and not a lot of them have been good in the last 11 years. And it's nice to finally enjoy this, be able to just enjoy the ride. I've had so many people text and be like, I know you're having fun with this. I feel good for you. People that don't necessarily have good feelings for the team for numerous reasons, but that are like, I'm so glad you're finally getting to enjoy this, because they know what it means, and they know what it means to a city, and that's important.
But Espo, again, like you represent, and I represent a lot of Suns fans out there. Everybody in this chat, we represent all of them. And we're we put this together so we can talk on a video stream and with our closest Suns friends, right? And it's beautiful, and it's kind of a therapeutic, every Saturday when we get to do this at 8 o'clock in the morning, because you just don't know who else, in this COVID era, right? We don't know what everybody else is going through. There's been so much crap thrown our way, and the fact that we can come here and do this every after every post game or every Saturday and kind of make each other feel better just because, we're all in the same boat, whether it's we're winning or we're losing. It doesn't matter. We're all in the same boat. And for us to finally be winning after all this time, I think we all feel good. And that's what we represent on this show is that, we represent the voice of the fans out there. I'm not going to say some stupid shit like the heart of the fan, but you know what I mean? So
no comment.
So, but that's what we do, and it's fun. It's great to listen. And but also thank you, Herbie Villanfranca, for earlier dropping 200 pesos, I think, in the chat, donating 200 pesos. It was pesos. Go back and look at the chat. It was pesos. I'm not.
Yeah, I got a little excited. I was talking.
I thought $200. I was like, damn.
I was like, did Herbie mistype? We might want to refund some money here.
No, there's no refund.
I saw the currency. Then I saw the currency. But thank you, nonetheless. Much appreciated. As always, we'll make sure that.
How much is 200 pesos? What is that?
I don't know. You're asking me to do math and conversion rates. All I know, it's $4. Herbie says that's $4 in US. So we will drop that in the Jay Crowder GoFundMe fund to pay for his fine for his salsa dancing. That's a spicy donation from Herbie. We appreciate
it's hot.
You guys. So thank you to everybody. Big thank you to Gina Mizell for stopping by the show, having some fun with us, and for confirming what everybody didn't know. Jeff Bauer is a real person and has actually helped in the Suns front office. So we break news here on the solar panel as well. Make sure follow Gina at Gina Mizell. You can follow Saul Bookman at Saul_Bookman. The underscore is there because he's got to stock up on that spicy Jay Crowder salsa before the second round. Need some room for that. You can follow me at
Spicy Jay Crowder. I like that. That's what it should be called. Spicy Jays.
Spicy Jays. Yeah. That should be his nickname for the rest of the playoffs too. Spicy Jay. So you can follow me at Aspo. You can follow the show at Sun Solar Panel. Don't forget to hit the join button on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a 5-star review on the podcast. So for Saul, for the aforementioned Dave King, who is not here, I am Greg Esposito. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time on the Solar Panel. Ahoy, hoy.
Barkley, 20-footer, yes, for the tie. Warhurst turnaround shot in the air. It's good. What? Finds the Barkley puts it up. There's a count. It does.